Well, here's something non-typical from my channel. This is from PragerU. PragerU does a lot of educational kind of stuff, but also a lot of political stuff as well. And they actually did an interview with Tom MacDonald called Wrapped in Freedom, the Stories of Us, and series that they're doing. And I wanted to do a reaction to this, and when I'm done, I'll decide whether I post it or not. But I don't really know the story of Tom all that well, so I thought this might be as interesting to you as it is to me. So with that said, let's listen to the story of Tom from the first person. Here we go.
My social media you can cancel me. I own all the cameras. I own all the lights. I own the recording software. There's no endorsement that I'm going to lose.
True.
My name is Tom MacDonald, and this is my story.
Cool. Very cool.
So I grew up in a very small town in Canada called Mission. We spent a lot of time at my grandparents' place and a lot of time with my granddad. And my dad and my grandfather were huge into politics, primarily like American politics. My grandfather was a huge patriot, and I used to sit on the end of his bed and we'd watch the news. I remember we were watching it on the news and my grandfather said, it doesn't matter what's happening in the United States, that national anthem brings the country together every single time. My grandfather was a very prolific writer, and he inspired me to write things of my own. I remember I wrote this poem in memorial of fallen Canadian soldiers. The soldiers I was writing about won the battle, and then the general or the sergeant was frowning. And my English teachers tore this thing apart. Why is he frowning if he won the war? My dad was livid.
Wow.
He's like, of course he's frowning. He lost all these soldiers. He's coming out of a war. Like, of course he's not happy. So my grandfather contacted this renowned Canadian poet, and she wrote me a letter saying how much she loved the poem and how great it was. And then she actually had it published in a Canadian magazine. I remember my dad coming to my school and dropping the magazine on that teacher's desk and turning around and walking out. One day I went to a pawn shop with my dad and he gave me $5. And he said, you can buy anything in this pawn shop with this $5. And I found this crate of CDs. Inside there was a Tupac album called All Eyes on Me. It was a 2 CD set. And I'm just looking at it economically. If I get this Tupac album, I get 2 CDs for the price of 1. So I just bought it. I had no idea who Tupac was. I listened to those 2 albums for years and I fell in love with hip hop at that point in time. But there's a huge disconnect. It was just like a little white boy from the suburbs who's listening to this like fully grown black gangster rapper talking about a life that I have nothing in common with. So then many years later, I get on the school bus and this kid sits next to me and he's like, you gotta hear this. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, it's this white rapper. His name's Eminem. So I put on the headphones and was just totally captivated. He's got blonde hair like me. He's got blue eyes like me. And that was like the first time the light bulb went off in my head. Like, I could do that.
Okay, so
the poetry evolved into rap music, and I kept those songs hidden for years and years and years, stuffed in a binder inside a drawer in my room. I loved music, but I just wasn't ready to step into that arena yet. So I took a detour. I got into construction, and I was 14 or 15 years old, being bullied by the other workers. So I thought, how am I going to work for the rest of my life and deal with this type of harassment? So I decided I'd give pro wrestling a try. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw the biggest roadblock up for myself ever. I went and got tattoos on my face. I got these $ signs on my eyelids so that I couldn't get hired anywhere. I'd have no choice but to be a pro wrestler. And that's what I did. I wrestled on all these pay-per-views with former and current WWF guys and traveled the country, and I got into a little bit of a scrap one time with one of these guys and jumped off the top rope and to do a frog splash, and I crushed all the cartilage in both my knees. My knees were so messed up that it sort of forced me out of the wrestling business. It was heartbreaking because I loved it so much. But that exit provided me with the greatest opportunity ever, where I had this sort of clean slate. I had a passion for music that I wasn't able to explore up until that moment because I was so devoted to the wrestling business. So I started pulling those papers out of that binder in that drawer in my bedroom and recording songs, and that was the beginning. So I started making this music that was very reminiscent of my favorite rappers, and it wasn't working because it wasn't my story, and it wasn't what I cared about, and it wasn't what was in my heart. But I also shifted my lifestyle to be like the guys in the rap songs that I listened to. I was placing incredible amount of emphasis on how much money I was making and the jewelry I was wearing and the clothes that I had. And I became just a raging alcoholic, just partied my life away for many, 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 many years. I ended up having just incredible mental breakdown and sort of unraveling of my psyche one night. The room was moving and like shifting around me. You know, I look at myself in the mirror, I don't even recognize myself. I was like hyperventilating. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor put me on Cipralex, which was not the solution. I contacted a mental health place, and I couldn't get in to see a therapist or a psychologist for like 6, 7, 8 months because the Canadian healthcare system is just abysmal. So I go to this doctor, he puts me on some sort of beta blocker, that doesn't work. This just goes on and on and on for, 4, 5, 6 months. And then I go back to the doctor one day and I'm like, nobody's helping me. Every moment feels like an eternity, like you have to help me. And I just told him straight up, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't give me something today. So he gave me Ativan. For the first time in 7 months, I experienced calm. The first thing I thought was, I don't want to be on these pills for the rest of my life. I hate to say it, but the Ativan kind of like saved my life. It at least gave me the headspace to figure out what was going on. I have a tattoo on my stomach and it says, if you don't know where the fire started, you will surely burn in it. Those medications, those pills, they're never going to tell you where the fire started. They just sort of fan the smoke away for a minute. A lot of people look at these things as, oh, I have this ailment and these guys over here have the cure, fix me. But that's not how it works. You have to fix yourself. So I started really digging into what the source of my unwellness was. I kind of realized what got me there, and I was emulating the stuff in the music. So I had this sort of epiphany, and I figured out, I don't want to make that music anymore. I don't want to make music that's going to do to other people what that music has done to me. So instead of destroying, I wanted to empower. I want to rap about things that I talked about with my granddad and my dad, social issues and political stuff. That's what I'm interested in talking about in my everyday life. Why would I then not go and do that in my music? While I was going through that process, I made plans to move to America. And my lawyer called and said, your visa got approved. I believe that timing is everything, and it was like a meant to be type of thing. So I got on the plane, flew out here to LA, and I reconnected with an old friend who later became my girlfriend. Nova and I first met in Canada, and she was like the only female in Canada putting on rap shows. We moved into a house in Crenshaw. We lived in the hood together, and it was grim. We couldn't pay the rent and do groceries in the same month. There's water coming through the ceiling. I'd wake up and open a cupboard and you'd just see cockroaches scatter off the plates. Like, it was unbelievable poverty. This really strange thing happened this one day where I was like sitting in the house and I was listening to the radio, and some big mainstream record label rapper came on, and I was listening to this song that was playing, and it was sort of like this woe is me, like, it's so hard to deal with all the attention I get, and it's so difficult to be this successful. And I was so offended. I was like, how dare you make a song trashing the dream that I've been chasing for years and years and years and almost died to get. So I started penning this like open letter to the guy that I had just heard on the radio. At the time, I only wrote when I smoked. So I grabbed the cigarette pack and I opened it, and there's half a smoke in there. Whatever I'm writing, it's got to be done by the time this half cigarette's out. So I got like 2.5 minutes tops.
Wow.
I don't remember slowing down to consider what I was writing next. It just happened. I just wrote this whole song. Nova was sitting in her bedroom, and I opened the door and said, I just wrote the song that's going to change our lives. Set up the camera. I need to shoot this. So she set up everything, and it was just a gray backdrop. We had one light, and we shot the video for Dear Rappers.
It's easy for these rappers who have it all. Talk about the days when they used to be sad. I guess I can't relate to being famous and wealthy. I'm 28 and still praying for the day I have a chance.
I called my mom and said, Mom, I wrote a song that's going to change my life. I need like $100 so I can put an ad on Facebook and see if I can get this thing to go. Then I call my baby sister. I need $100. Call my buddy Brandon, get $100 from him. I call this other guy, get $100 from him. Me and Nova take the last money that we have. We have like $400 and our rent is like $650 and we don't have any groceries. I take all of this money and I pool it all together and it's $1,100. The next morning we put out Dear Rappers on a Facebook ad and 24 hours later it had 1 million views and we were off to the races.
Cool.
2 weeks after that, a check came in the mail for $11,000. And that's the most money I'd ever seen in my entire life. Like, I just couldn't believe it. And next month I get a check for $20,000 and the next month 30 and the next month 50. All of a sudden we had $1 million.
Cancel culture runs the world now, the planet went crazy. Label everything we say as homophobic or racist.
I rap about political topics.
We won't always agree. No, I don't hate all police.
Gender stuff and race stuff.
I think Black Lives Matter, they think white lives matter less. And LGBTQ turned into WTF.
My favorite song of my own is always like the most recent one, but I really like You Missed.
They don't want an election, they got so offended by freedom that they just try killing the president.
I remember being so pissed off and thinking, this moment doesn't need a song. It needs a battle cry.
You missed.
It's all been Nova and I from the inception of this thing. To this day, we distribute the music like totally independently. We don't have a manager. We don't have a publicist. There's no record labels, agents, like nothing. It's definitely not easy being independent, but with how anti-woke my music is, a record label's never going to let me make the songs that I've been making. The music business and the mainstream media, they all work together at creating narratives and towing the line, and anything that goes against their agenda, that's not coming out. I talk about these things and I don't even consider myself a conservative. I think I'm just like a free thinking person. So if they're going to take away my social media you cancel me? I own all the cameras. I own all the lights. I own the recording software. There's no endorsement that I'm going to lose. And you are not going to shut me up. You're not going to make me feel small. It's not happening. These artists that are top 40 artists that are mainstream, a lot of these people are controlled. And they never get to express themselves. And I've talked to a lot of them. They hit me up privately and say like, hey dude, good on you. Love what you're doing. They'd never acknowledge me publicly, ever. But even with all the censorship, we've got over 50 number ones on Billboard and 16 on the Hot 100, which is like the big boy chart. And I've gone head to head with Eminem on these charts and beat him, and Drake and beat him. There's people at record labels tearing their hair out over this stuff, because they're sinking hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to convince people that these are the folks you should be listening to. And people are saying, I'm gonna listen to Tom. Because there's like an appetite for real music and an appetite for truth. Just be real, that's what people want. They're getting lied to on the news, they get lied to in the paper, they get lied to on social media. Where is somebody that's just gonna be honest with us? I'll do it, I don't care. I'm just grateful to be in America. After all, I came here unwell, addicted, $800 in my wallet, and built a whole life for myself and my girlfriend. It's really incredible. The American dream's still alive and well. All you have to do is live up to your potential. That's why I love this place so much. I just fell in love with the American spirit, and I fell in love with the people. And going out on July 4th and standing in the crowds and singing the anthems and watching the fireworks, it just makes me want to speak the truth even more. You know, my dad's a big rock guy, and he told me something when I started writing rap music. Rock and roll's always been about screaming the truth at the top of your lungs. He said, you might be rapping, but what you're doing is rock and roll. And rock on.
Wow.
This has been Stories of Us with me, Tom MacDonald. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, please consider making a donation to keep PragerU videos free.
Well. First thing I got to say is I'm really proud of Tom. Wow. Made me a lot more emotional I thought it would. Yeah, I'm proud of Tom. I really am. Maybe that's why I like to react to his music so much. That's why I get so frustrated with him when he has copyright, hits me with copyright, and I can't do his videos. Frustrating. I just did a reaction to his latest one, which is called White Boy Shit. And I was a little reluctant, to be honest with you, looking at the lyrics. It seemed out of character for Tom, right? It seemed out of character for him. It was seemed like it was promoting, racism. But it's not. I know it's not, but I guess I'm too freaking old to understand how it's not. I guess because it didn't. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it, and I wish I did. But listening to Tom's story here and talking about where he came from and where he's going to really inspires me. God, there's so much about what's going on and what has gone on in his life that I can relate to in my own life. I hope you guys can too in your lives. I'm at a similar kind of dilemma to where Tom was at when he first moved into the hood with Nova. I'm kind of almost in that, at the bottom situation. And I can see the light and I know how to get there. It's just whether or not I got the cojones to do it. We'll see. We'll see. But man, Tom, wow, that's fantastic. Loved hearing about his success. I'd like to know the nuances of that and how that all worked out, because I'm putting out a ton of content. I'm not seeing anywhere near that kind of success. Of course, I'm not a rapper either. I'm not a rapper. So, and You Missed, I agree with him. You Missed was a really necessary song to come out, and it came out in a time. It just needed to come out. It needed to come out right then and there. And I'd like to see him. Boy, I wish I'd see him do more of that stuff. Disappointed that he's had so much time off recently, but who knows? Maybe he'll get back on it. Maybe he'll get back on it. But I hope you enjoyed listening to Tom talking here about his story of us from PragerU. I find it interesting, and I'm going to post this. I hope you guys will find it interesting. So give us a thumbs up, like and subscribe, ring the bell. Thanks for listening. We'll have more stuff like this in the near future. Check out my Patreon. I post some content up there that's exclusive to just the patrons. So if you want to check that out, please do. It's only like a couple bucks a month. It's not going to break anybody. All right, with that said, I'll go find something else to listen to. Thanks, friends.